You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you can be here with us. Let me just get the right setting on my voice. There we go. Now we're here, and we have the right setting on my voice. And I'm glad that you're here with us. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM on the radio in the morning between 7:30 and 8:30 weekday mornings. It's Tuesday, October the 31st, which means it's Halloween. It's Halloween today, and we are all getting ready for our Halloween events, whether it's at work or with our families. And we are going to, we're going to get through the day, and we might have, some candy, stuff like that. We might be with get dressed up ourselves, or be with the little ones who are dressing up, that are part of our network of family and friends. Either way, we're going to be doing something today, even if it's nothing. Doing nothing is something, kind of like this show. And we're also streaming online at cklu.ca. You just click on the Radio Player Canada app and you can stream us. You can also download the same Radio Player Canada app, take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. And fortunately, I guess, for the time being, contrary to what will be happening in the future, we're still streaming at Facebook, at facebook.com/SudburyNews, youtube.com/SudburyNews, which is a miracle. We're not sure how that is actually still taking place, but it is, and we're thankful for it, and we'll take it while we can. And I guess in the meantime, we prepare for the days soon to come where we won't be streaming on YouTube or Facebook anymore, according to Bill C-11, Bill C-18, and the Online News Act, and the way the CRTC is going to be determining who's allowed to actually broadcast over the internet and who's not allowed. And I wonder who they're going to pick. Kind of thing, right? So it's not political, though. It has nothing to do with that. We're also, so make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow, all those things on our social medias. We're also on Twitter and Instagram, although all I do is put the video up on Twitter. Instagram, I don't even do that. I haven't really done anything with our Instagram. TikTok, not even sure what to do with that. We have an account. But Rumble's soon to come, I guess. That's I just have to figure it out with the providers that I have, that I use for broadcasting, whether or not they can do that. And we'll figure something out, even if it's just broadcasting straight to our website, which we can do. I know that's possible. And tomorrow you should see me streaming from a new location because there were complaints made, and so I have to find a new location. It is what it is with our cancel culture today. And but what I do is just keep going until I can't go anymore. Just trying to be dedicated to the cause of understanding the world in which we live, which isn't easy to do. And today I have a couple videos along those lines of thoughtful, wise people understanding the world in terms of the war that's just started in the Middle East, how it's going to affect us, what's actually going on there. It's not an emotional take on what's happening in the Middle East. It's actually a well thought out take with people that actually know what the heck they're talking about with this situation, and a great interviewer. So stay tuned for that towards the end of the show. We'll be back after the weather. What are the Wolves up to this week? And then we'll have some local news headlines. I guess just before we do the weather, now that's on my mind, the Highway 17 is closed north of the Sioux between Batchewana and Wawa. There's some lake effect snow coming in, about 5 to 10 centimeters. So they've actually closed the highway this morning, and it's forecasted to be opened towards the end of the morning. So if you're traveling, just know that. And there's also an advisory if you're traveling south by Parry Sound as well. Make sure to check the latest weather. And speaking of that, we'll dive right in. Yes, we're in that time of year. It's Halloween. I remember a couple of years ago, it snowed Halloween and it stayed all the way till like the end of April. So we had like a long winter that winter. And I hoped and prayed that would never happen again. But anyways, anything can happen. We'll be back right after this. Sudbury weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Currently it's -4 degrees, but it feels like -8. That happens in Sudbury in the area and a lot of parts of Canada. You know, it's one temperature, but then it actually feels colder, and it works the same way with our heat. So it could be +4 degrees, but it feels like +8. But we have -4 today, but it feels like -8. It's the humidity and other factors. Anyways, so today we can expect increasing cloudiness early this morning, 40% chance of flurries this afternoon, right in time for Halloween, if it happens. But anyways, the wind chill -8 this morning. Tonight, partly cloudy, 40% chance of flurries this evening, and low of -8, wind chill -11. So it's going to be a nippy Halloween. Make sure to put on a couple layers under your costumes, and for the little ones especially. Wednesday, sunny, increasing cloudiness early in the afternoon, and wind chill will be -12 in the morning. So it's going to be cold. A look at your 6-day forecast, and again, precipitation heavy here, increasing cloudiness, high of -1 tomorrow. Or high of 1, sorry. Thursday, November the 2nd, chance of rain, showers, or flurries, 60%. High of 3, 30% chance of rain, showers, or flurries. On Friday, high of 3, 30% chance of showers. On Saturday, high of +4, +3 on Sunday with a 40% chance of showers, 30% chance of showers or flurries on Monday. So here you got your mixed bag of weather. Here's a look at your satellite on this Halloween day, 2023. A lot of clouds. There's clearing basically. This was taken at 2:30 a.m. For those on the radio, there's clearing east of us from Sudbury all the way past Ottawa, Montreal, but clouds all the way to the west of us, which we will be getting because the wind comes from northwest this time of year. Anyways, that is your Sudbury weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. And we'll be back with some news headlines, including some sports and local headlines. And then we'll try and make sense of a little bit what's happening in the world, which will affect us at some point, the troubles going on in the Middle East. And we'll have some people of sound mind and understanding actually speaking about this, not an emotional, politicized, kind of weaponized take and trying to stir people up, take on what's going on. It's actual what the heck is really happening. Okay? So we'll be back with that and much more, including your comments, right after this. Okay, and we are back. Thanks for sticking with us, everyone. and I hope everyone's having a great day. Before we get going here, I thought I saw a story. Yeah, but it was about the windshields. So Sudbury police are urging people, when you get up in the morning and you're in a rush and you might feel the window on your car isn't all that frosty, that maybe you can just spray some windshield wiper fluid on it, or turn the heat on, and hopefully while you're driving the window will defrost and you can then see. Well, they said they're going to be giving out tickets if they see cars with partially frosted windshields, and rightfully so. I would think it's pretty dangerous. I have to admit I've done that before, but since I can't put myself or anyone else in jeopardy by doing that, no matter how much of a rush I'm in. Got to keep your scraper handy. Make sure that you scrape your windshield to be as safe as possible. And we're in that time of year. Again, you're going to have to allow a few more minutes to get ready in the morning to be off to the races, so to speak. But with that, speaking of to the races, to this race, Judy is first today as well on Facebook. Good morning, Judy. Thanks for being with us. Denise as well. Good morning, everyone. And Monique, a sunshine emoji, which we will need because there's not that much of it going around. Good morning, Sudbury. And Marianne from Barrie. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us, Marianne. Good to see you on each morning. And again, I hope the news that we have here in Sudbury is relatable to some degree for Barrie as well. We try to do our best. Marianne says, liked and shared. Thank you so much. Morning, Vin. Thanks for being with us today. And Denise says, more people are going to need a ham radio. You bet your bottom dollar. Be strong where you live. Prep for the worst. Be ready. Denise, do you know what I'm going to have on the show each day? Because it's going right in line with what we'll be talking about. Could it be suddenly dead behind the wheel? Could it be suddenly dead behind the wheel? So, yes, I think you're talking about the windshield thing, and possibly, the fact they closed the roads due to the weather already early on in the year. Good morning, David. Take care, stay safe. And sorry I wasn't able to read that 100%, Denise. I'm not sure if there was, the spell checky thing that happens every once in a while. Denise, bless your journey, David. Yes, for sure. We are hoping for a quick recovery, for sure. And we're so grateful that all of you are on this morning. And thank you for being here. Very cold here in Barrie also. Had a dusting of snow, which normally we don't get until the first week of December, going down to -12 tomorrow. Brr. Yeah, you are in the snow belt there in Barrie. And but it's interesting that you said you don't usually get it till December. But I remember a couple of years back, it started on Halloween in Sudbury, and it stayed till, like I said, the end of April. I don't know if it was 2 years ago now or 3 years ago. But yeah, I'm not a fan myself. But what I am a fan of is the Sudbury Wolves. And they will be in action tomorrow night against the North Bay Battalion, in whom they lost. They lost against North Bay on Sunday. Close game, 5-4. We blew a lead in the first period. I said third period yesterday, but by accident. But it was the first period. We were up 3-1. Ended up losing the game 5-4. But we get a chance to redeem ourselves tomorrow. Make sure to get your tickets for that. And then if Wednesday night game, you're not able to make it for whatever reason, you can check them out on Friday, and they face the Niagara Ice Dogs, 7:05 puck drop for both of those games. Get your tickets, greatersudbury.ca/tickets. They always have sponsors, theme nights, prizes, giveaways, you name it. Food is great, and it's a great time for your family. Just get out there and enjoy the Sudbury Wolves. Cheer them on. They got a great team this year. They're going to do great things. Got a good feeling. And it's going to be a great season. Accidents on the highway, lots of people, yes, are perishing from the accidents, especially around between Espanola and Massey. Many, many sad instances over the last couple of weeks. And we need to take a little bit more precaution while we're driving on the roads to keep ourselves and other people safe, for sure. Okay, so here we go. Sault Ste. Marie, speaking of tragedies, you remember the intimate partner violence, the situation that took place. Well, anyways, the headline from Sudbury.com, this will be the only story we're covering from Sudbury.com this morning. Man cries for change after daughter killed by intimate partner violence. So many people in Sault Ste. Marie were hearing the term intimate partner violence for the first time in response to this week's mass murder-suicide. One local man was too familiar with it. His 22-year-old daughter lost her life to similar violence in southern Ontario just a few months ago. Dan Jennings told Sioux Today, which is an affiliate of Sudbury.com, owned by Village Media of the Sioux, owns many, many outlets, journalistic outlets throughout North America. Dan Jennings told Sioux Today he hadn't heard that term until dealing with the aftermath of his daughter, Caitlin Jennings. Yes, that's Caitlin Jennings' death in London, Ontario in July. I'm not used to the new term intimate partner violence, he said. To me, excuse me, it's always been domestic violence. Caitlin was found dead in a London home on July 5th of this year. David Norman Yates, a 50-year-old construction worker, was arrested at the scene of the London police, and London police said the two were known to each other. The charges against Yates have not yet been tested in court. So, yes, this has been in the news. You are more than likely familiar if you were watching what was happening in Sault Ste. Marie, and it was national news. It wasn't just local or regional news. And the term intimate partner violence and the plea, or there's people out there that want this to be declared an epidemic. And I'm not sure what happens if you declare it an epidemic compared to if we just know that it's there and we try and do something about it. Maybe there's government funding or something that kind of is available if you declare something an epidemic. I'm sorry, I don't know all there is to know about everything in the world, and so I don't know what the difference is between just having intimate partner violence or declaring it an epidemic. So the Sioux City Council voted, I think, yesterday to actually declare intimate partner violence an epidemic in Sault Ste. Marie. Now, I don't know what you need in order to meet a requirement to declare something an epidemic. As sad as this is, and I would not downplay what a tragedy it is, it sounds to me like there are certain forces at work that are pushing, there usually are, the idea of the opioid crisis being declared an epidemic possibly makes it possible for certain organizations to get funding from the government, and they can, they have an organization that's now going to receive funding and create jobs and things like that. And so there are certain agendas at play because of that. And there always is in a socialistic society where there's government paying for everything. And sometimes things aren't done for the right reasons. And so I don't know. I'm just wondering what it means if it's an epidemic compared to not being. And how many intimate partner violence situations have we had in Sault Ste. Marie that makes it possible to declare it an epidemic in the city? As sad as it is, why is it an epidemic? I don't know. I'm just asking the question. That's the That's the suddenly behind the wheel, like the old age homes suddenly. Okay. During lockdowns, the reports of domestic violence were pretty high. For sure. Yes, that's true. They actually did increase. Psychological war and beta testing us, possibly. Again, I know this type of thing has taken place throughout history. It's not a new thing. It had increased during the pandemic. Is it on the increase still after? We're not even after the pandemic, really. I don't even know if we've come out of it. We have different indications in certain things, but since the lockdowns, let's say, have intimate partner violence situations been on the decline? Are they on the rise? We don't know, right? Anyways, just wondering what's up with that and why that is. Another thing that's been in the news, it's not really local, but it does kind of bring it local. When this is from CBC, it was on the radio. I was on my way to work this morning. Crystal Shawanda, a Juno Award-winning blues singer, says contested ancestry of Buffy Sainte-Marie doesn't take away the inspiration. So Crystal Shawanda, a Juno Award-winning blues singer from Wicklow, Ontario, says Buffy Sainte-Marie's memoir inspired her to persevere as she struggled to make it in the music industry. And yeah, these days, there's been, I forget which politician in the United States claimed that she was of Indigenous descent as well. And then was it Warren? Found out that she had no Indigenous blood whatsoever. And so it is a thing. Like if people are going around claiming they are part of a certain group when they're not, I don't know, like it's probably better to just be truthful. I don't know. I know a lot of people have opinions about this. At CBC, it was on Fifth Estate, I believe. They did a story on that. And I read Buffy Sainte-Marie's declaration after before the show aired, saying you're going to hear some things. I just want to set the record straight here, kind of thing. So it is what it is. More to come on that, I'm sure. So here in Sudbury, billboards take aim at addiction stigma. An outreach project in Sudbury that helps vulnerable people is launching a new billboard campaign to change the view of addiction. And that's from CTV Northern Ontario. So much to say about this. Speaking of an epidemic, I truly believe that our addiction problem is an epidemic. There's no doubt that it's rampant. The death toll is huge. The problem in our downtown and city is severe, related to homelessness, although not all people who are experiencing homelessness are addicted to a substance. There is a correlation there. Now, this whole stigma thing comes from the ideology of harm reduction and instead of recovery, right? So we talk about this at length on the show. Harm reduction believes that you should assist people in taking clean drugs and prevent them from dying and make them feel that it's not a bad thing and you're not any less of a human being by being addicted to drugs. And so we will help you continue to take drugs for as long as you want. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Recovery, however, says maybe this isn't the best thing that's going to work for your best interest, to be addicted to something. So let's try, if you want, to get you off this stuff. And yes, maybe you would be better off without it. And you're still not a bad person for doing it. Doing drugs and being addicted to things like this could cause you to do bad things that you regret and aren't going to work in your favor in your life. And so some people say bad stigma helps that process to somebody say, you know what, even if I feel ashamed, maybe that's a reason to get on the road to recovery. I myself can relate to that. You know, if society accepts something that is going to ruin your life and says it's okay, society somehow becomes an enabler to some degree, and people that are in addictions understand this, I believe. It's the government that's coming in without any knowledge of addictions and trying to solve an addiction problem. And they come in with this ideology of harm reduction. The addiction counselors didn't make this stuff up. They know that the best thing for these people is to be off the drugs and not to continue to do them. However, if one of the steps on your way to recovery would be to prevent you from dying in the first place, then maybe that's a step. It's not the solution. So I don't know, this campaign about stigmatizing people that are addicted. I mean, it's always good to be educated. However, you don't want to cross the line to become an enabler, someone who's going to prevent that person from even thinking there's hope or thinking that maybe the best thing for me is to get off these things. Everyone I'm looking to is telling me it's okay, and they're helping me do it. And they're becoming an enabler. They're giving me a nice warm place to go. They're giving me my substance for free. And, you know, and if I get really depressed, there's something called MAID, Medical Assistance in Dying, which is now going to be available for people suffering from mental health conditions. Even youth can get this medical procedure. Where's my camera? Yeah, I can't go opposite. Medical procedure. Got to get used to that opposite thing. So how could that be a good thing for a society? Give people drugs. Don't stigmatize them. You're fine. Here's free drugs. Keep addicted. And then when you get down, so down, not, hey, how about we take you off the drugs because you'll feel better? How about we offer you medical assistance in dying and that will solve your problem? And I don't know what the cost of that is for the physicians administrating it, but they can make some money off it at the same time, right? So it's win-win. You do away with your problems instead of working a little bit harder with people around you who care about you, who have the tools to help you get off the drugs. We'll just make some money off you. Well, we made money off you all along by offering you these free drugs that taxpayers are paying for and paying for the people that are administering them to you. So we're creating jobs around you and whatever, you're helping the economy. But I guess when you reach a point where you're too bad, then we'll just offer you this medical procedure and you can be on your way. Thanks for joining us for this short period of time. It's been nice knowing you. Sorry we couldn't help you. Or yes, no, we did help you. We kept you addicted and then killed you. Everybody's happy. I mean, that's one way of putting it, right? And someone else could take offense to that way of putting it and say, yeah, but there's been a paper that someone wrote one time that they did a paper and it was peer reviewed and it said something different. Okay, that's good. Well, that's great for them. But I mean, common sense goes a lot longer than someone's paper that was peer reviewed at one time somewhere. And then someone else would go to write a paper about what I just said, and it can't be peer reviewed because universities don't like that way of thinking. They like to go along with the other Marxist type ideology that we have. And it just doesn't work. You don't get the other side. You only get peer reviewed that comes from the Marxist communist kind of side of things that's rampant in our universities today. But anyways, there you go. Popular Northern cheesemaker has closed. After experiencing equipment issues, the owners of Thornlow Cheese in Temiskaming closed the business permanently. So if you were a consumer of Thornlow cheese, it's not a good day. And I know a lot of businesses are going out of business because of the economy, the taxes, the pandemic. They took a big hit. And getting out of that, I mean, they're just, our country does not make a good environment for small business at all. It makes it really hard to run a small business unless you have a government handout. So they treat certain businesses, they'll give them a government handout, and then all their competition doesn't get the government handout. They go out of business, and the one that got the government handout is fine. So anyways, sad day, another small business going out of business. Let's see here. Public Health reports 14 outbreaks of COVID in Sudbury. Like I said the pandemic was over by mistake earlier. It's going to be still in the news. It's still going to be in the media for as long as it can go. There's no doubt about it. Hanmer Trailer Park residents want lights back on with shorter days, moving around in evening significant hazard. So for more on that, that's Sudbury Star talks about that, about when our lights go on and off in the city. I always wondered about that, like how they're timed, when they come on, when they go off, who's in control of that, how does it work? Okay. Also, Sudbury.com has a story on many immigrants face mental health struggles in trying to adapt. I would say many people from warmer climates who come here and experience winter would definitely have a hard time adapting. There is no doubt about that. That's just one aspect. And then culture as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit more right now, actually, in how the war could affect our culture even more. You know how we have a really strong, aggressive immigration policy here in this country. We're bringing people in by the hundreds of thousands without the infrastructure or whatever to deal with the massive immigration from multiple countries. Now, what's going to happen with the people that are displaced in Gaza now? So we know how Sudbury, we had a lot of virtue signaling to everyone that we were taking in, a lot of Ukrainians during the conflict there. You know, it's always in the news how we're helping. We are helping. That's great. I mean, but what about all the other countries? Who else is helping? Is China helping bring in refugees? Is India bringing in refugees? You know, all the South American countries, are they bringing in refugees? Why does the West, or why are they always the ones that have to take in refugees, let's say, or there's this pressure from the world that somehow ethically or morally the West has to do this, and we have to be a multicultural society when the fastest growing economy in the world, which would be China, there's no pressure for them to take in anybody or help. You know, what's up with that? Like, why not? And why do they not even offer? What's up with that? You know, so to look into this and more, my good friend Tucker has more on that. He interviews a politician from England, which, just make the translation from England to Canada, because many of the situations are very similar to what's going on in the United States and in England, which they refer to quite a bit in this interview.
Of all the effects of the current conflict in the Middle East, one we can be certain of at this point is that there are going to be a lot of refugees, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions. Where should they go? That's a real question. So if you were to suggest, well, why doesn't Israel take them in? It's their war. The response you would get would be immediate, and it would be aggressive, and it would be, of course not, that's insane. These people are dangerous. If they were moved to Israel, it would be destabilizing for that country. And that's probably true. In fact, it's certainly true. But what's interesting is the very same people who would tell you that are now pushing for those refugees to be sent to the West, to English-speaking countries, Scotland, the UK, and yes, the United States, calls for this are coming from the left, predictably, but also from the so-called right. We should take these refugees. What's going on here? And is anyone pushing back against it? Well, Nigel Farage is the head of the UK Independence Party, joins us now with an update on where this conversation is going. Nigel, thank you so much for coming on. So it's a little strange that the very people who acknowledge that this would be a massive threat to Israel, and they're absolutely right, by the way, I'm not calling for Israel to take these refugees, but those same people are saying the UK and the US and Scotland should take them. What's the thinking here?
I mean, we have a great history in the UK of taking refugees. You can go back 300 years to the Protestants in France who were being burnt at the stake, and we took in a large number of French Protestants, Huguenots as they were known, and they did very, very well in commerce, finance, the military in our country. The same applies to Jewish people. We took Jews in from Russia after the pogroms at the start of the 20th century. We took Jewish people in from Germany and Austria in the 1930s. And indeed, if you go to the 1970s, we took quite a large number of people from Uganda, where Idi Amin threatened to annihilate the Asian population there. And again, they were a group that came to the country, assimilated, did incredibly well. So, you know, we feel as a country with our Christian roots, and our desire to help those in genuine need, that we should try and help people. But remember that the duty of any government, its primary duty, is to the integrity of its own country and its citizens. Now, over the course of the last 6-7 years, we've taken over 500,000 legal refugees. They've come to us from Hong Kong, our former colony, being oppressed by the Chinese Communist Party. They've come to us from Afghanistan. They've come to us from Syria. They've come to us, of course, from Ukraine. The big problem here is that Hamas, the terrorist group Hamas, although the BBC will never call them terrorists, but the Hamas who launched those appalling, barbaric attacks on everything down to babies on October the 7th, they enjoy considerable support in Gaza. Indeed, the last elections that were fought in Gaza a few years ago, Hamas came top of the poll. So if you take any significant number from Gaza into our country, you will have a significant percentage of Hamas sympathizers and supporters among them. And you have to ask, given the protests we've seen on the streets of London just this weekend and the weekend before, whether maybe we've got enough of a problem in this country already. And we've had successive waves of Islamic extremist terrorism on our streets. There's a case going on right at the moment from somebody who was killed just a couple of weeks ago. The authorities do their best to suppress all of these stories. So my argument, and I'm pretty much alone in this, is that if we take people from Gaza, they will actually pose, some of them, enough of them, will pose a threat to our national security. And if anyone should take them, Tucker, shouldn't it be the Egyptians? Shouldn't it be the Saudis? Shouldn't it be their co-religionists in that part of the world? And how interesting that Saudi Arabia didn't take a single person from Syria because they were worried of the impact it would have on Saudi society.
Right.
And the same goes for Egypt right now. So if they won't take them, why on earth should we threaten national security?
But I want to go back to something you said at the beginning, that the English feel good about themselves because as a Christian country, and it is still, I think, officially a Christian country, though it's obviously not, but it is technically a Christian country. They feel good because they're expressing Christian charity in receiving all these refugees. But has that policy made England better? Is it a more cohesive, happier country than it was 40 years ago? It doesn't seem to be at all.
No, I mean, we have now got, and our London Metropolitan Police don't know what to do. We had people on the streets of London this Saturday shouting jihad. People on the streets of London carrying ISIS banners, chanting, going on the streets of London from Palestine to the sea, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, meaning Israel should be literally obliterated. So we now have the politics of other countries on our streets because of who we've let in, this group of people have not assimilated. They have not integrated. And therefore, why compound the problem? Historically, it's been a success. But in modern times, it is now dividing our society. It is threatening our way of life. It is threatening our free speech. It's happening here. I mean, look at Germany. Look at Germany. Can you believe that in Germany, of all countries, in the last week, Jewish people in Berlin have had Stars of David graffitied on their front doors? So you can see all over the West, this is a massive problem, and it's not one from which America is immune.
It's interesting that no one ever says, well, China's got the fastest growing economy in the world. They have an obligation to take in millions of refugees from other countries. Nobody ever says that. Nobody says that about the Gulf states. It's only Christian countries that have this obligation. And I think it's obviously destroyed those countries. Germany, I mean, people are getting raped in Germany on the street long before the Hamas attacks of October 7th. This is a long-standing problem. So, but why do you think that is? Why do you think that prosperous Christian countries in the West have this obligation that every other country, India, China, Saudi, they're all exempt from it? What is that?
Yeah, and I mean, take Japan. You know, Japan, a fully functioning modern democracy, but Japan, of course, takes hardly anybody. In fact, even on legal immigration, Japan is very strict and very tight because they want to protect the integrity of their culture and their country. Why? Partly guilt. I think the older countries seem to be absolutely infused with guilt about their colonial past. But also,
wait a second, Japan was one of the most aggressive colonial powers in history. But no one's pushing them. Why? I mean, I'm not a conspiracy nut, but it does seem like this is an effort to destroy certain kinds of countries, and of course it's worked.
Yeah.
Why not just say that?
We have allowed the virus of Marxism to take hold in our countries. We're being told to be ashamed of our histories. We're being told that we're institutionally racist. We're being told that we suffer, you know, from our own form of bias, and we indoctrinate our school kids with this stuff. And the reason this neo-Marxist agenda has taken such hold in Britain, Europe, and indeed in much of America too, is actually not because of the left. It's because the conservatives in those countries have not had the courage to stand up to this stuff. And, you know, you look at my country, we're being told we should be ashamed of slavery. Do you know, we spent nearly 50 years using the Royal Navy at massive cost, stamping out slavery, stopping the rest of Europe carrying out slavery. But nobody ever comes up with those arguments. Conservative cowardice through politics and media has led to so very much of this.
Well, Britain ended the transatlantic slave trade.
So the moment of awakening is coming.
Well, so your own prime minister, who is a conservative, but obviously has zero interest in the country that he supposedly runs, for example, that's very obvious as an American looking across. His new priority is ending tobacco use in a country with a massive narcotics problem. And a massive refugee problem and an economy based on what, banking or something that's falling apart? Why is he focused on tobacco? I'm confused.
Do not for one moment please make the mistake of thinking the party that is now in power in my country and has been there for 13 years has anything to do with being conservative. They're not. We have the highest tax burden we've had since 1951 when we were busy paying off wartime debts. We have the growth of a surveillance society that punishes the innocent and never the genuinely guilty. We have legislation to control our lives at every level. We've just put up corporation tax by 30% to damage every man and woman running a small business that wanted to reinvest and grow in this country. And despite Brexit, we still have not lifted the regulatory burden, which of course supports the big corporates but damages the entrepreneurs. And for Sunak, 1 year on from an election, to decide his main priorities would have stopped anybody after 2009 buying cigarettes, whilst we have a massive, massive problem with drugs causing huge short-term damage to our youngsters. Oh, and the other thing is to fiddle around with the A-levels that 18-year-olds do. Neither of those two things would have been on the top 25 priorities of almost anybody in our country. And that's why we're headed next year in this country for a dramatic, dramatic collapse of Conservative support in the general election. And you know what? Not only will they lose the election, they deserve to lose it.
Yeah, I mean, I would support someone from the hard left who actually cared about England over Sunak, who clearly despises the country that he runs. But I just want to zero in on this question of tobacco. So it's impossible to imagine him saying cannabis use has massive side effects. It's not helping our country at all, and we're going to phase it out. That would be inconceivable. But tobacco use, which has long-term bad health consequences, true, but also raises testosterone levels, that's the threat? Like, how is that the threat?
No, I mean, it's absolutely wide of the mark. And yeah, you're right. Tobacco causes long-term potential problems, but it doesn't actually cause short-term problems. Drugs cause psychological short-term problems, absolutely deleterious to our younger generation.
Yeah.
But he sidestepped the big issue, went for what he thought was the easy one. And look, everywhere we see the growth of big government that wants to control every aspect of our lives. And it's all irrelevant. Our national debt, our debt interest payment is massive, just as it is in the USA. Our entrepreneurship is falling. Our levels of national security through failed immigration leave us more vulnerable to internal terrorist attack than ever before. It's almost unbelievable that banning cigarettes for anybody born after 2009 could even be seen to be a priority.
Countries that hate themselves have trouble continuing, I would say, and I hope that both of ours change course. Nigel Farage, I so appreciate talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
So there you go. Tucker interviewing a person there who actually just sets out, what the lay of the land is with Gaza is going to have a lot of refugees, and what refugees currently could do to cultures of different countries and things, right? We all have different cultures, and we celebrate the different cultures. And in Canada, we've oftentimes said we are a diverse country, and we wear that on our sleeve, and we've done well with it over the years. The way that it's been done, at the pace that it was done, as this gentleman said, it was a success. People came into different Western countries, and I don't like the word assimilated, but that's what happened, right? They blended in with the culture, and they were able to have their culture along with the new culture, and it was the positives about both. But as you have seen in the Middle East, probably for most of your life, you wondered why there was always so much contention in the Middle East, why it was always in the news, why people were always fighting, right? So the more you increase the immigration of the people that haven't resolved the conflicts that they still have to this day in those countries, they're not wounds that have healed. They haven't even started. They haven't even come up with a solution yet to start healing. They're still in conflict. And as you bring more and more of those people into your country, they're still at war with each other in their hearts. It's not about a physical place. It's about a culture and a worldview that they are at odds with one another, and they will be at odds with one another in your country just as much as they would be in their own. And so you're bringing those conflicts to your doorstep. It is what it is. That's not racist to say that. That has nothing to do with race at all. It has to do with the political climates that are going on in the world, and the people that have the world views, and they're in conflict in their countries or where they're living at the moment. And if they move away, it doesn't remove the conflict from them. They still carry the conflicts with them, and they'll still be just as conflicted with the people they're conflicted with, whether they're on your soil or their own. Really, just that's common sense. That's just common sense, right? So tomorrow, hopefully, if I'm able to move the studio and it's able to function properly in its new location, I'm going to have an interview with a fellow by the name, well, it's not that I've interviewed him, but I've spoken with him before. His name's Joel Skousen. He's a constitutional lawyer, runs a constitutional law school in the United States. He is an expert on preparing for the things that could possibly have, whether they're natural disasters or man-made disasters. He specializes in building safe homes, so he could build a home that could withstand earthquakes, floods, you name it, nuclear attacks, whatever. That's what he specializes in. Kind of a neat thing, right? And I spent time with his uncle when I was in the States, who was a forerunner to him, who's also started the constitutional law school. And his name was Cleon Skousen. Wrote a book called The Naked Communist about communism and how it would start infiltrating the United States. And spent some time with him. He was a great person. Sat in his living room with him and discussed many world issues while I was there. And then was able to touch base with Joel, who is his nephew, afterwards over the phone and have a few discussions with him. But here he is in an interview with a fellow Canadian podcaster. But this is just a taste of what's to come tomorrow. This guy, he dedicates his whole life to really honestly understanding world events, and he doesn't take sides whatsoever. And hopefully we'll have this interview with him tomorrow. But here's just a little taste of what you can expect.
The whole world will change when this war starts because the lights are going to go out and they're going to stay out. Israel is trying to provoke an Iran-Israeli war for over 3 years now, and Iran has done nothing because they haven't been ready yet. But I think they're now getting ready. The globalists want Iran destroyed because it's the only Middle Eastern nation that is capable of producing its own arms without dependent on the East or West. Nothing in the Middle East or in the Battle of Ukraine is going to create a nuclear war that's going to start World War III. That's only going to start when China's ready to enter the war, and so the trigger event for World War III will really happen in the Far East. Russia is an existential threat to the West because of its nuclear arsenal, the largest in the world, which they fully intend to use. I'm 100% sure that we're someday going to face EMP strike, 20, 30 minutes later, a nuclear strike on U.S. military forces, and then the whole world changes forever. The U.S. military is decapitated by a preemptive nuclear strike. Then our globalists can come out of their bunkers and say, we didn't know this was happening, but the only way to defend ourselves is all join in a militarized global government to prosecute World War III. People need to really think in terms of how serious this is going to be. Not if, but when. Use the time to get prepared.
So hopefully more of that to come tomorrow from Joel Skousen. And he is definitely an authority on studying world events. He has a newsletter called World Affairs Brief that I subscribe to, that I've been subscribing to ever since I knew that it was there. And he's been right about pretty much every prediction he's made. It was 10 years ago that he predicted right around the year 2020 there would be a conflict between Russia and Ukraine that would then snowball into larger things. And he basically explained it in detail, step by step, exactly how it came down. And so tomorrow we'll have the interview with him where he unpacks all of the things you just heard there. He goes into detail about all of those things. So you're like, what? How could that happen? Or I don't know about that. He'll explain it, and it'll be, again, it's not bias. He's not for one side or another. He's simply just getting the facts, trying to understand the lay of the land, how this war came to be, the history of it. Who are the players? Who are the actors? What are the agendas? What do people have to gain from the war? What is the purpose of it? And looking forward to that. And again, he's looking at the larger picture of how this is basically like really dry kindling going on, and the rest of the world is like a bunch of wood and paper and flammable products just around, and basically if you light the kindling, it then sets off the rest of the world. It's like a domino effect. And so make sure to tune in for that tomorrow. Looking forward to that. And I hope that you guys get something out of, listening to a worldview that you wouldn't normally hear on our publicly funded news, that pretty much is like the person Tucker was interviewing there that says on BBC they wouldn't call Hamas terrorists, just like CBC. We had evidence of the letter from the top down telling the journalists you cannot call Hamas terrorists, right? Even though our own prime minister came out and said Canada's stand is that they are a terrorist organization. We have the media that are propagandizing. They have an ideology, and they're going to give it to you regardless. So I hope we appreciate having another point of view other than that which we're always bombarded with, speaking with war terms, from our media. We're in a psychological war, along with going into what we'll see a physical war very shortly, as the world is on the doorstep in the Middle East. And it is basically it's like kindling, just dry kindling, just waiting to be ignited. I think it's already been ignited, actually. And right now there's people just fanning the flames and getting ready for what it's going to end up being. But anyways, thanks for being with us today. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM, CKLU.ca. Hopefully, God willing, my new studio setup tomorrow. We'll be back same time, same place, and with all the same people joining. And make sure to continue to comment. I appreciate your comments today. Have a safe Halloween, everyone, and make sure that you take precautions to stay warm. It's going to be cold, and stay safe. Put some reflective tape on, all the things that you need to do to stay safe. Check your children's candy, or check the little one's candy, all that stuff. Make sure to go out with them and make sure that they're safe as well. So we'll see you same time, same place tomorrow, God willing. Ciao, everyone.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.